The rise of insecurity in Nigeria has triggered the proliferation of several community defense forces, otherwise known as vigilante groups, across the country. The local population was forced to think inward by coming up with informal policing structure for their survival, as the waning capacity of the police could not curtail the rising trend of urban violence and crime. Communal policing or vigilante were created to protect the neighborhoods. But, like a double-edged sword, the quest for vigilante groups to provide security to communities can become a source of insecurity if not properly handled. There is a legitimate fear that some may end up as deadly instruments of oppression in the hands of politicians and powerful elements in communities and states. Many believe the time has come to re-examine this all-important security sector. Hello and welcome to Break It Down, where we make matters of policies, societal issues, governance and development easily understood by all. Today we are looking at vigilante groups and how effective they are at preventing insecurity. I have with me Idayat Hassan. Idayat Hassan is the Director, Center for Democracy and Development, CDD. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm always excited talking to ladies. And you're such a beautiful young lady. I'd like to know what the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, is all about. What do you do there?
Oh, thank you very much. I'm the Director of the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD. And basically what the CDD does is, in terms of helping to strengthen democracy and facilitate development, we emphasize a situation where there will actually be democracy will start delivering development to the citizens. And what we do in our day-to-day work is to try to be the prime catalyst for strategic analysis, which is very important in terms of what we do, capacity building, advocacy, and of course, our work is often guided by research. So we want to facilitate policy change using evidence, and that's where the research aspect and component of our work
in simple words, when you say prime catalyst, in simple words, you make it happen.
Yes, exactly. What we just want is a peaceful and prosperous West Africa.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have broken that one down. Peaceful and prosperous West Africa. All right. Nigeria just went through a crisis. The protest, the youth protest, and the violence that followed. What advice would you have for government in the event that something like that happens again?
I think that the EndSARS protest, it's a positive thing that has happened, and in the sense that it made government to make some policy change. And of course, the youth have also been able to realize their power to facilitate policy change. The disbandment of SARS, the establishment of those commission of inquiry, which we have 13 presently constituted. So all these are positives in terms of what the police reform, that is of salaries. So they've been able to make some very commitment to increase salaries. They've been able to make some positives thing come out of this protest. So, and it's dialogue. It's very, very key and important, because I'm sure that if some of those key decisions, has been made, we would not get to the extent where the hoodlums could actually have hijacked the protest from the peaceful protesters who were even cleaning after themselves every time they finished protesting in different parts of the country. But again, it goes back to what led to the protest itself, and that is why people are more and more calling for community policing, self-policing, because of the fear of the brute force that the law enforcement agencies used in terms of maintaining law and order.
I guess that's why we're here today. We want to talk about the vigilante, the self-policing, and the functions of the vigilante. But first of all, let's look at vigilante itself, which is self-policing to some extent. What exactly is it?
I think it's basically self-help group who are coming together. So a vigilante is a broad word. You can be a vigilante even over your vote. You can be over security. You can be over anything that you really want. And it's all about self-help. It's about taking your destiny into your hands. It's about ownership of a process. And when you own a process, all you want to do is you want to take that into your own hand. So it goes beyond just saying it's some group of people who are trying to enforce law and order, who are not part of the police. It's also noting that citizens who are interested, who are affected, or who do not want to be affected, and who are now taking their own destiny into their own hands to police their communities, their environment, their votes, just name it. And I think it's very, very important because of a host of reasons why they are useful. One is their knowledge of their environment. One is their commitment to their own environment, where they are. You have a stake. So if you are going to be being a vigilante in this area that we really have, the balance is that it will come from people around the same area who are self-invested in the area, who know that they are protecting their own security, their own law and order, their own property, really, and they are protecting their own people. And the people there also know them. So you cannot just do anything bad and you disappear. You are untraceable. You would be traceable. You don't need a badge on your chest to say you are Idayat, Hassan, the police to be identified. But people within that environment, people within that community do know them. But again, this is something that has changed within the Nigerian context. Some people can even go and hire their self-help groups. But since the lockdown or over the COVID-19, you find that the whole idea, sense of vigilantism, keeping watch, that's exactly the word, keeping watch, has again evolved in many parts of the country. So you see, during the lockdown, a lot of people had to come out. Landlords, even here in the outskirts of Abuja, Niger, many of them came up to be policing their own environments.
So this dates back to the days, for example, of the OPC, that is Vigilante, and we've had government not really receptive to such groups because they see them as maybe a force that might be used by some certain individuals. Maybe in the course of some other thing, in politics or whatever, or even secession. So what do you think about this?
I think that vigilantes has always been a part and parcel of the country. They even have a group with the Nigerian vigilante forces, that they call themselves, established with a very huge number of people that are parts and parcel of this. Those are the organized ones. Unorganized one, I think it dates back to the history of the country. But we have had people like the Odua People's Congress.
Are they organized or unorganized?
So Odua People's Congress are they started as a self-determination group, ethnic group, for the actualization of the June 12 mandate. The Odua, many objectives they had. June 12 was just one out of it. But for better life, they want to put it. But along the line, when insecurity became very, very rife in Lagos and other parts of the southwest of the country, they formed themselves into groups who were helping to police the environment. That is not their main function. They can even set to be a social, ethnic group, just like Afeni, so they have, but they started helping to police the environment. So you see people where there are conflicts, challenges, or something late in the night, community started hiring them. So they were helping to police. They were helping to police for some incentives that were given to them, particularly in Lagos, where they are popular. But on a general note, vigilante, or call it community policing, maybe we should start talking more about community policing. Why people do not welcome it is, one, the fear that it can be used for other purposes, like you've earlier mentioned. Really, that for instance, if it is aside from the government, other actors, non-state actors feels like, listen, who will police them is one. Two, again, is that it can be used for politically motivated crimes, especially during elections. Some of them could be used to recruit people, looking at the history of what has previously happened in this country. The police themselves feels like, okay, how well trained are these people, especially when you start throwing the hand and talking about these other groups, maybe the OPC, Egbesu boys, Joe, all these people who came
have a civilian task force up north,
yes. That how useful will they be? But I think that it's an idea whose time has actually come.
Okay, so you support it.
That now we have to face our reality. In the sense of the kind of insecurity that is pervading the country. Now, you just mentioned the Civilian Joint Task Force, the CJTF in the Northeast. I think that they've been the most effective. They've been a plus to the fight against insecurity in the Northeast. Either they call, in Borno, they are called that, or the boys, any name they come from, or hunter groups, they've been really, really effective in terms of stemming insecurity in the Northeast, in terms of fighting that Boko Haram insurgency itself. These are people who have knowledge of their locale, so they know everywhere. So it's not like they are just, they know everywhere. They know the people. They speak the language. They were born and bred there. And above all, for the CJTF, they are so committed. So because for them, they are not fighting for money. They are not fighting because they are being paid. They are fighting to actually protect their own, to protect their land. So the incentive for them to ensure that Boko Haram is defeated is quite higher than the incentive of somebody who might be a military man, that might be a police, and is then brought to fight this battle. So you see that the two of them working together. Now, maybe that's what we can start looking at, like how will they now work together? Because if you see this
in other areas, I was going to say, can we say the Southwest Amoteku is like the CJTF?
So this, no, but you know the incentives are actually different. So with the CJTF, then there is close collaboration with the men of the security forces. So they work together hand in hand. They've been trained by them. They've been trained at different points in time by both state and non-state actors. So they've been trained by them. So they work with them, and they have rules with which they operate on that. Now, I'm not saying they've not committed human rights violations, which is one of the fear of having community policing, that what if they continue to commit human rights violation. But in a system where there is accountability, it will work. But what we should be thinking about at this point in time is volunteerism.
Okay.
Volunteerism.
So I guess we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll still talk about funding, because I believe that who funds usually pulls the puppet string. And then we'll talk about volunteerism. She'll tell us what volunteerism is. We'll be back. Yeah, you're still on Break It Down now. We're still with Idayat Hassan. She's the Director, Center for Democracy and Development. And we're talking vigilantes today, self-policing, and its functions in crime control in Nigeria. Yeah, we're talking about funding of these groups, these self-help groups, self-help security groups. And I said the person who funds usually holds the puppet string. Perhaps that is where the problem is.
Yeah, I don't think that's cool. That's a problem when you look at the funding implication, the money it really requires if they have to do their Amotekun, and how they are able to maintain that for quite a long time. The workforce that will actually be required, paying the workforce, buying the vehicles, doing the getting them well trained. Because I think training is also another challenge. You just bring in people, you don't train them, then you say they become vigilante or state policing, community police, then or you don't even train them on human rights, and you don't speak to people the law really that will guide it. Now for the funding, political will matters also, because if we go back again and we start talking of the Borno example, which I know very well, of the Civilian Joint Task Force, they are being paid by the state. Not everybody, but the few that are being paid by the state. In fact, when the new governor got in, immediately one of the first things he did was he increased the salaries of the Civilian Joint Task Force, and he ensured that they were all enrolled in the banking system. So once at the end of the money, automatically you get your money. It was no longer like you have to go and queue to get your salaries. So that really helped. It brought them the vehicles which they use. It provides security for them, and when they die, in several instances, they go visit them and they give some incentives to their family. So it's kind of encouraging to these people to do the work. Now, in most of the other instances, while funding is a challenge, really, because it means that they have to go back to the post where they have to build roads, they have to do this, they have to do the other thing to now give money out for this policing system itself, except there is a constitutional change which will now give money, allocate resources for state policing, community policing, whatever name you call. It's also the lack of political will, because at times I wonder why out of the 500 million unknown 1 billion, we don't know how much the security vote of a state could actually be. Some of it can be allocated to fund these forces, especially even where they are policing. And Lagos State is also a good example, because for quite a long time they've had a force which they've been doing. I think, in fact, I don't know, maybe it's even it's been there. Maybe
can we quickly look at that volunteerism you spoke about before we go into state policing?
Yeah, I think
what is volunteerism?
Volunteerism is people coming together to help themselves, and that is what you find in most parts of this country. People are volunteering to secure law and order. People are volunteering to prevent crime. People are volunteering to be vigilantes or neighborhood watch in their communities. In fact, see when they said 1 million boys was going to many streets in Lagos, we saw people who came together, who were volunteers from each family, each household. People were coming in and they were jointly policing their streets to ensure that these so-called 1 million boys will not come to do it. So those are kind of the examples of all these policing or neighborhood option, which we should also encourage. Because if these people, it's not a job, it's just something that they are doing because they have a stake. And it's this stake that we should continue emphasizing. The minute we all realize as Nigerians that we have a stake in stemming insecurity, in crime prevention, then everything is really going to change, because it means that intelligence gathering will be done easily. It will also be utilized by the communities without necessarily, if they are afraid of giving intelligence to the police, you know that you have to watch out whatever is happening in your area. Who is the strange person that has come into the area, and what does this person do? Like that, you go again, you police your area, you ensure that the rules are adhered to. you ensure that you are a counter to all forces that is actually happening, and also cooperating with men of the law enforcement agencies.
All they sound very good, but we have seen instances where these vigilante or the unorganized policing become excessive. We have heard of extrajudicial killings, we have heard of excessive force, and we have heard of even people using them against perceived enemies, and they just go all out and go against the law.
Yeah, I quite agree to that. I think that's one of the biggest challenge people do have. But all those is also happening because of the lack of accountability in our system, which allows impunity to grow. So all these people who have killed people whom we've seen in broad daylight, if they are being brought to book, what will happen? Remember, some years ago, there was this video that emerged of OPC people violating pepper seller or something in Ejigbo, in Lagos. And just by looking at it and the outcry it generated, maybe in 2013 or 20, so I think it was, not too long ago, the outcry it generated, the guy was fished out and he was prosecuted, irrespective of being OPC, by the Lagos state government. How many of such cases are we bringing up? How many? So where there is a lack of accountability, system cannot work. Even if we like it, we can blame the government or we extol the government. Even us at times, we are part of the problem. We get very afraid.
Because when they instill fear in the people. So when you already have fear, how can you report?
So if you have fear, that's the problem. Because we are afraid, we just say we should not report. And because we have taken away our right to report, the government does not know. So those people are not prosecuted. They are going to do 10, 100. They are going to make it a way of life. And when we then tell the government and they are prosecuted, the other part is to ensure that we keep watch to know what eventually happened to those.
So what do you advise? Everybody should police the other person?
I think we have to become our own police. Anywhere that the system works is where we have a renewed citizenry. So the Nigerian problem is a lack of leadership. Leadership is a problem. We don't have good enough leadership, but we also don't have active citizenry. So until those two balances, we will not be able to get to the El Dorado that we want. So as citizens, we have to take security to be very, very important. Security not because we are necessarily going to be carrying arms to kill people, taking laws into our hand, but security, intelligence gathering, what is happening around our area, who is policing us, ensuring that we get redress when there are human rights violation. All these little things will add up to ensure that crime is actually prevented and people who commit crimes are actually brought to book.
Okay, let's talk about state policing now. It's because of that we have pockets of youth restiveness all over the country, and now as we are moving towards 2023, the youths really are the ones they use for violence. I would like you to have some words for the youths.
I think that in trend, I'm very positive that the youth will no longer be agents of violence. The youth have seen what it is like to be organized, and from what has also happened and what they've been able to achieve, henceforth things will never be the same again. For positively, I don't mean negatively, in the history of this country. So the youth are asked to build on it and become positive agents of change to give us the Nigeria of our dreams, the Nigeria we desire, the Nigeria where things will actually work for people. So the power is actually in their hand, but it's to engage it constructively to deliver a better Nigeria for us all.
I think already they have discovered that they have some kind of power, and I'm sure they'll be able to use it. Thank you very much for being on this show. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys, for being on the show. We'll be back same time next week. Goodbye.